Hello, hello. How is everybody today?
How you doing?
What's up, Vito?
How
Hi,
you
Alex.
doing?
Hi, Ma. I see a lot of great names on here. Hi, Frederick.
Hey, man, Dr. Sharon.
How are
How you doing?
you?
I'm good. How
I'm
you doing,
good.
man? Good.
I am good. I am good. Amber, we got the crew today.
Yes.
We'll get started in a couple minutes, everybody. We'll let everybody kind of come in and join us. And it's lunch and learn, but it's also like right after lunch. So I imagine everybody's just trying to get through and scarf their food down. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box. We will monitor questions. You can also raise your hand. We'll catch you on the screen as well. For those of you that have joined us on Lunch and Learns before, you already know they're fairly informal because we just want to teach everybody everything that we can today. Amber and I have a good one for you guys today. Y'all are probably going to hate us, and then you're going to love us. Amber, I'm going to also make you a co-host just in case you see people we need to let in or do anything.
Okay.
Hi, Josie. I see you.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
We're good. We'll give it about one more minute and then we'll get started. Yes, Frederick, you will get a copy of it. Everybody that registered for the session will get a follow-up email either tonight or in the morning with a recording of the session and a downloadable. Cool. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'll call this good. Oh, let me wait till it's 1:05. I'm cutting seconds off the time here. I'll wait till, oh, it just flipped 1:05. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Lunch and Learn. It is July 12th. We are talking about the best subject on earth, budgets and money. So you've got Amber, the strategy specialist. I'm Dr. Sharon, the nonprofit plug, and we will be going over some hefty material with you guys today. We hope to get through this in less than an hour, but it is a hot topic and it is a hard topic. So we'll try and get it through as best as we can. Ask questions. We'll keep an eye on the chat box. Raise your hand, ask a question that way. We may even pick on a couple of people because Amber and I love to pick on people and answer questions directly. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and dive in. So welcome to today. Let's start off with a little humor. For those of you that saw the newsletter, you probably saw this, but I know I'm a total nerd. So Amber and I were dying about this. I hope everyone else was laughing too. Why did the budget go to therapy? Because it had too many spending issues and needed financial counseling. I can't see half the faces, but the ones I see are laughing, so I'm good with that. So your therapist for today, Dr. Sharon, and really Amber is the real big therapist for this one today. So we're hopefully going to make everything hilarious and laughable for you guys today. And we'll go ahead and get started. So Amber, I'll kind of hand off to you. You tell me what you need, if there's anything you need me to pull up, and whatever you need. So I'll kind of hand off for you to where you want to take it.
Okay. Yeah, so we're visual, and I think that when you can see it, you understand it better. So do you want to do any specific intro into the spreadsheet? Because I think we should just give it to them.
I think we should just smack them in the face with it.
Okay, I'm here for that.
I see some smiles and some head nods, so I think we'll just roll on with it. Maybe can you give us, I kind of put it on the screen here, but of course, it's like death by PowerPoint. Can you kind of go over just a general definition and then we'll smack it to them?
Yeah, definitely. So as the definition she's provided, you can see it's very formal. And in our industry, specifically in finance and compliance and governance, those topics oftentimes are intimidating. So I come from a standpoint, and the reason I want to jump right into the visual is because I want to demystify it and get you comfortable with it. Not only from your founder perspective, and also the fiscal responsibility that you have as the founder or the operator of your nonprofit, but taking you all the way through to the very end, how you will have to show up for your board, how you will have to show up for your grants, how you will have to show up and answer to the community you're serving, and how you will have to show up, frankly, to the IRS to keep your 501c3 compliance. A lot of people aren't going to give you that many layers. So even though I pray that after this lunch and learn, you walk away going, oh my God, I totally get it. I can wrap my head around it. This spreadsheet, which by the way is color coordinated, and like we really break it down again to simplify and demystify very complex and legal concepts. So I don't want you to misunderstand that this is very, very serious. But if we can get you to become masters at it, even though that is not your skill set, possibly because you don't come from an accounting or finance or governance background, after this hour, no lie, if you really dive into it, revisit it, and take notes, you will probably be more knowledgeable than many of the professionals you encounter in your journey. And that's facts. Okay, so we did design this spreadsheet to be a useful tool for the brand new nonprofit organizer, but it also communicates and transcends all the way to the end for all of the end users, again, even the IRS. So without further ado, here is our masterpiece. And again, as promised, with colors that we will explain in detail as to why they're so important. So for those of you who are not completely familiar with financial statements, I'm sure now that you're, in this realm and you're consuming a lot of information, probably not only from us, but also on the internet, you keep hearing, you need to know your financial statements. What is an income statement? What is a balance sheet? Blah, 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 right? And I'm hoping that because you've taken this leap into the nonprofit world, you have familiarized yourselves with some of those concepts, not only for your nonprofit endeavor, but also for yourself personally. And, as the strategy specialist, that's kind of my thing, where I start to teach financial literacy, this kind of stuff at this level on the personal side. So imagine taking your nonprofit budget template, but also having a personal home template where you have itemized accordingly. Again, trying to demystify these topics so you can understand them, right? So this is an example of your income statement. And again, to tie it through, the income statement is something that we use in everyday life, even though we don't know it. When we are applying for homes, when we're applying for FAFSAs, et cetera. So to master this at the nonprofit level, it is going to be a value add for your entire life. And you will start to look at things in a completely different manner. So again, that's why I'm encouraging you to, after today, continue to master and absorb this type of information. And you will have the downloadable, so you'll be able to play with the numbers. So let's talk about revenue. That's always a big thing, right? How can you operate if you don't have any revenue? And then do you have a plan for revenue? Well, that's why, of course, you would hire Sharon to create this plan, right? But when you are, number one, applying for 501c3, or number two, doing your ask for money, they want to see that you have a plan and that you have some type of projections. And projections are difficult, right? You don't want to get too lofty because, you know, that could be a complete turnoff. But at the same point, you know, you don't want to, you know, create a plan with limiting beliefs. So may I be honest? I usually start with the expenses first. I have a deep conversation about expenses, what is necessary to operate, how can I get uber creative to operate as lean as possible, and then from there, what would be on a wish list, or what could be added that would be a powerful lever that can make us better. So we have provided the standard expenses for a nonprofit. And again, as you can see, this is completely demystified. Every one of us in the room understands and knows what these expenses are. I don't think any of them are unique. We understand it. Sidebar, this is exactly what your IRS filing, your 990 looks like. Exactly. So I will show you what the 990 looks like. And ta-da, here is your spreadsheet. Why is that so exciting? Well, while you are creating what your operations look like, you know immediately that you are in direct alignment with your formal reporting. No guesswork. Again, why is this important? Well, because when you go to get your bank account, and then of course you're looking to start your QuickBooks so you can start tracking all of the activities within your nonprofit, QuickBooks is going to prompt you to create your chart of accounts. And they're going to ask you, what type of business are you doing? And you're going to say nonprofit. But from there, there are so many different types of nonprofits. Are you a service nonprofit? And also too, there are service nonprofits that also sell merchandise or other things that need to be tracked in a different way, right? So a lot of these questions that QuickBooks is going to be asking you day one when you're setting it up are going to be a bit confusing. On top of that, they are also going to give you a bunch of different columns that may or may not apply to you right now. So the budget template that Sharon and I have provided you is kind of in the middle. It's not for the brand new nonprofit, but it's also not for the complex nonprofit that has buildings and investments, etc. Okay, so as your nonprofit continues to grow and become more complex and managing big assets, of course, this budget template would look different. But this is definitely the budget template for any nonprofit, basically that has come across NPP. And so we know that this is tried and true for, and NPP's client range is, you know, from startups all the way to 20 million top line. So I want you to feel secure in knowing that this would be an appropriate template for you within that range, okay? So let's get into the colors and what they mean. So I'm trying to figure out how to start this. Okay, so obviously, again, your goal is to be operating efficiently and making sure that the money that is coming into the charity is being used for the biggest impact, right? So that is really how you showcase yourself. Hi, I have this charity. It has this mission. Thank you so much for believing in this mission. Let me show you how I can turn this money into magic. The charities that are able to turn the money into magic give away or put to use in alignment with their mission at 70%, which means they operate at 30%. That is very difficult. You have to get creative to run a business at 30%. And let's think about it in the profit world, right? Restaurants, you name it. Most businesses operate at a 22% margin. We're asking you to operate at a 70% margin to get a gold star. So that's why it's so important to know your numbers. And it's also so important to be able to think outside the box, be creative, and leverage your opportunities. Because in essence, to get the 5 stars, what they're asking you to do is almost impossible. And we know this because we plugged in the numbers to meet these percentages. So example, the green is the money that was given away for the cause. So the programs and the grants that were given to individuals or organizations would be what you would brag about. You would say, and this is how you would summarize it. You would say, you know what, in 2023, my nonprofit received $110,000. And with that $110,000, we gave $10,000 to a nonprofit organization. We gave $5,000 to individuals that qualified under our mission. And we gave $58,000 to direct service in our program. So that's what you would say to a board. That's what you would say in an interview. And at that point, there would be fanfare, because anybody who brings in $110,000 and gives 70% of it to direct cause is a superhero. So let's get to the red and to the orange. The red and the orange are operating costs, what it takes to run this nonprofit. And in this scenario, it's reasonable for one person, all of you individuals here running your nonprofit, you're a one-man, one-woman show. It's 100% possible for you to bring in 110 grand for your cause. How do you do that? Well, you're going to have to deploy a lot of energy, a lot of resources, much of which, you are going to be at the very beginning absorbing yourself. And that's where it gets into where you see the $20,000 compensation for yourself. Now, mind you, most of that doesn't happen year one in a nonprofit, but we wanted to just give you a view if in fact it could. So let's say that you're already, Sharon or I, for example, because we're already business operators and we wanted to do a nonprofit, we have so many resources under our umbrella, whether it be web designer, graphic designer, so on and so forth, that we could technically deploy with our other companies, but put into use for a nonprofit. So in return for that, we would take a compensation for $20,000. But of course, we would be behind the scenes. We'd be sending all the emails. We'd be making all the calls. We'd be writing all the grants. We'd be keeping our own books, for example, because I don't think you see no fees in accounting. So we would be our own bookkeeper. We would be our own this, our own that, right? And the only thing that we'd have to pay is obviously merchant fees for when people were making donations, either at our events and we're having to process credit cards, or that they were making donations, through our website. But as you can see, again, just imagine yourself, because a nonprofit at the end of the day is a business. You get the $110,000. You're the one man or one woman show, and you give away 70% of it. Is that realistic? I've seen it happen in a few cases. Is that ordinary? No. And if you're having a frisky Friday night, I highly encourage you to hop on to Charity Navigator and start Googling all of your favorite charities. And now that you have a framework to look at that you can wrap your head around, Because this is, I mean, low key, this kind of matches your most of our personal budget. We know how to manage, about $100,000, right? So we get this. This is something that we totally get at a cellular level. So when you start looking at these other charities, you can pop in and look at the kind of money they're managing. And then as you scroll through, you start to look at the decisions they're making. And then you can plug their numbers into your spreadsheet, which Sharon will be giving you, if you're not a percentage whiz, and then you're going to go tisk, tisk. They're only giving 30% of their money to their mission. And wow, it looks like they're running really heavy. They've got CEOs, they've got CFOs, but they're still outsourcing a bunch of stuff to independent contractors and other firms. And then you start asking yourself, is that necessary? Or is their business and I use the word business, forgive me, is their nonprofit running too heavy or too complex? Could they be more mindful? Could they whittle it down? And the reason that I say that again is because you're getting the experience of somebody who serves in the accounting profession. And I've had to go in and do cleanups for really big nonprofits. And when I say cleanups, they give me their books, I clean them up, okay? Some of them haven't been reconciled in 2 years. Really severe cleanup situations. And it saddens me because they are so heavily supported, meaning they're getting 10 million, they're getting $20 million. They have a CEO, they have a CFO. Why are they hiring me to clean up their books? Well, that means that the people at the helm aren't doing their jobs, right? So I give you this insight because even if you are at your infancy stage in your nonprofit, I don't ever want you to forget that in a perfect world, in an ideal world, you would be following this framework. So when the nonprofit hits, when you're getting the $10 million, the $20 million, I want you to go back and remember what is best practices, because all of, not to get too deep, but we're all doing this obviously from a deep place, a deep desire to have a bigger why. So, I really want to plant the seed that we're giving you the framework of the ideal way to operate so you can be proud of your why. Is it completely realistic? It'll be really hard. But this is the goal. Do you want to hop in, Sharon?
Sure. So let me kind of stop and see, does anybody have any questions? I've been keeping an eye on the chat and it's pretty much me in there just dropping some notes along the way and comments. But does anybody have any questions before we sort of dive in? We're going to actually pull up this spreadsheet, the template that we're going to provide to you guys, and we're going to go through it in an actual realistic situation. But does anybody have any questions before we dive in? Don't all ask at once. Okay, good. That means this is making sense, that this is going to be
April has a
template.
question.
Oh, she does. I'm sorry. I can't. There's a screen I must not be able to see. Go ahead.
No worries. Hi guys, it's April. With Why We
Hi,
Give.
April.
And I may have missed it. Hopefully I didn't. I know, and thank you guys for this breakdown. It's super helpful. So as far as the budget, the 70% margin, I know that's, obviously best practice, or that would be the best goal to hit. But as far realistically, if you didn't hit 70%, what's at least the target mark you want to make if it's not 70, if it's under that 70?
Let me ask you a question, April. What does your nonprofit do?
So While We Give Project, we provide hygiene kits to those who are unhoused here in Los Angeles.
Okay. So you're actually, you're going to have high program expenses probably, because that's a lot of in-kind type stuff. So you'll be focusing on in-kind donations anyway, but for industry standards. So this is really just kind of a framework that we're provided, where foundations and donors and other entities that look at your financials, if when they do look at your financials, they're kind of just looking for like this basic framework. But we know that when you start to add in overhead and when you start to hire yourself, maybe April as executive director or other staff members, that's going to shift. What you don't want is you don't want your expenses being 70%. So I usually always try to stay 33% or below in the expense range. But if you're an early stage nonprofit and you're only bringing in 100K and your staff is 50K and your expenses are 50K, that's going to happen. And what you'll want to do is you have the opportunity in your tax filings and in your annual impact reports to explain that story. And your impact report, your annual report should match your financial report and the story should be in alignment. Amber, do you have any further comments on that one?
No, I mean, that hits it. And everybody knows in the beginning, especially when you're only working with 100 grand, it only stretches so far, right?
Thank you.
And then so, Shariana, what areas should you look at first to reduce expenditures? And again, just to dovetail on that, the red is the one that gets abused and exploited the most. And again, I'm talking about the people who are legitimately abusing and exploiting it, not the people that are working for less than minimum wage to further their cause. Okay, so when you start talking about nonprofits that are that have been called on the carpet for misappropriating money, the areas that they're talking about are the red and the orange. So maybe that's a better way to explain it. So the areas in the red and the orange are the items that can be exploited for personal gain. Because again, when you're, I was going to use an example, but I don't want to make a name, but there is an organization, there are many organizations, for example, that have been called on the carpet. And the things that are highlighted in the media are the orange and red areas. So those are the things that you want to be mindful of, because you can put on these extreme galas that cost a ton of money. I've seen it done. They produce these galas with production, renting the venue, etc. Think about a wedding, feeding everybody. So when I say gala, I'm thinking wedding at $100 a head. But they weren't successful in getting the donations to cover the event, much less pay for the event and then some. So that's another thing. A lot of nonprofits will put on these fundraisers, even at a small level. I had one that was able to raise $10,000. It was their first time out. And she had no idea how much it would cost to get the t-shirts for everybody, to get the pop-up signs, the banners, the things to have, obviously the presents. And, it's $240 here, it's $300 there, it's $7 a t-shirt times the 100 participants and so forth. It's not cheap. It's just not cheap to operate. And again, I use weddings, for example, family reunions, anybody who's ever coordinated that, this is literally no different. In your nonprofit, you're putting on a family reunion and a wedding. And you guys know those private conversations that you've had when you've done these things within your family, where you're like, who is paying for this? Or you add it up and you're like, hey, we're gonna split it 50 ways. And people are like, what? My cut's $350 to come, you're crazy. So imagine that per person to host on behalf of your nonprofit is $350, all of it legitimate, all of it extraordinary, but they're only coming with 200. You operated that fundraiser at a loss. And I see that a lot. The argument you'll get from the nonprofit is, okay, yes, this is a loss leader, but we were able to produce this event. We got a lot of media from it. A few local news people came, so we're going to get some press, la-di-da. which is fine. But at the end of the day, when you do your profit and loss on that event, on that gala, on that fundraiser, you just lost 20 grand. So I hope that the media or the advertising or the word of mouth or the momentum potentially built from that can quickly make up for that 20 grand. Does that make sense?
Any other questions? I'm about to pull up this spreadsheet in real form. Latoya, did you have a question? Oh, yep, go ahead.
This was amazing to hear. So my nonprofit's been established for like 12 years. And I've been doing what you call like symposiums every year, gala. And I've never did like the fundraising. So this year my team was like, well, let's do a fundraiser gala. And you just spoke it to existence, because I'm like, how are we going to buy all this stuff? You know, we're trying to get the in-kind stuff. And, you know, my team is really excited about doing it because some, praise God, but some Miss pageant lady wanted to honor the work that I've been doing. But the part that stood out for me the most is every single time the symposium is over, my family is in debt. It don't come from the business because the business didn't have it. But I go up and beyond those 20, 50, 70, 500, 700. And I spend a whole lot of money. And it's just to make people feel good and bring about the awareness. So you just gave me a big slap in the face. I may revisit how my gala is going to look, because this is my first gala. I've never had one. I had the symposium, but this one is titled Gala. And I'm thinking, let's do this fundraiser, but it's not really financially beneficial.
Exactly. So
It's
here's
fun.
the thing. It's fun. A lot of great pictures. That red carpet is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's celebratory.
Oh my God.
You know, and then obviously, you know, some tricks and tips.
Mhm.
You know, you can turn it into awards, special guests, things of that
Yes.
nature.
Mhm.
But again, now you've got this new fancy $100 glass award that you're handing. And then was there any income coming from a supporting business or what have you to, you know, replace that? And so these conversations have to be had, and
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with having them. So I'm hoping that it becomes more customary, especially for us newer nonprofits, to be so transparent and say, I don't know this venue costs money. All these little things in the middle of the table cost money. And I'm happy to do it, but at the expense of what? At the expense of the mission? You know, you can't really say at the expense of my salary. That's not going to go over well, right?
That's reality, right? That's been reality, because if the plates are $67 each, I charge $80. I got a little bit of change to buy the bags, the pens, and the postcards. And that's it. There's no benefit at all other than the information and award and celebrating. But thank you. This was really, really good. It just put a nail in it for me. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Very welcome.
And it would be interesting to see what you can focus on as far as getting in-kind donations, and how much of what you're doing at the event can you get sponsored or donated as product or whatever. Or a lot of events that we go to, the swag bags are usually from a sponsor or a donor. So the less you're spending in every kind of area are things that you can look at. But, you know, that takes 3 to 6 months to plan those kind of things out sometimes, and lots of phone calls and donor cultivation, things like that.
We own it right now. So I know the acts, you know, but the end result is my retirement. That's what the end result is.
Yep.
But thank you.
I hear you. Good question. And a lot, sometimes budgets are like reality checks for us too. And sometimes it helps us see what we're spending. And sometimes it's a reality check like, oh, we're doing good. Like the percentages that are on these templates that we're going to provide for you guys, you never know. You might think that you're spending a little too much in one area, and maybe these percentages are going to show you that like your impact is right on spot and you're within your sort of industry framework. And Latoya, that might even be something that happens for you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to pull up the template. So give me 2 seconds here. And I don't know, Amber, maybe we should just pick somebody to do a budget for?
Yeah, if any of you guys have your numbers, we're happy to plug them in and let's see what it looks like.
Anybody
And
want
let's
to
do a real life
volunteer?
analysis.
Anybody want to have a budget created for them? We'll do it right here for you. Yeah, I had a feeling Latoya was going to pop her hand up. We're happy to do that. Should we, you got some numbers?
It depends on how fancy
Oh.
you getting. I got some numbers. Do you want me to tell them to you?
Yeah, we're going to have you tell them to us. We're going to go through the spreadsheet. So let me share my screen
Okay.
so that you guys can see the actual
Oh, this is
template.
amazing. Thank you.
In sidebar, what I highly encourage you guys to do is, so this is the spreadsheet for the entire organization, let's say for the year.
Mhm.
Okay. But I would highly encourage you, and I can do it before we send it to you. And so maybe we would change the tab, Sharon, is to make additional tabs to encourage you to keep track of every quote special event, its own profit and loss statement.
Yep.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
So at
mhm.
the end of the day, what we're giving you is a profit and loss statement for your
For,
nonprofit,
for your overall nonprofit.
for your overall nonprofit.
Cannot see
And
that.
to go on and add on to that for like event budgets and things like that, even program budgets. So you're going to have your overall nonprofit budget, and then every program you have within your organization should also have its own budget,
Mhm.
because sometimes, and Denise, I'll answer your questions in 2 seconds. Sometimes one of your just projects or program alone is going to be going after a grant, and they only want to see just that program or project budget. So you'll want to have this kind of spreadsheet for everything you kind of do, and you can keep it all in one Excel, and you can even get fancy and have all your program budgets formulate to go onto your main master budget. So if those are things that you guys want to do, you can always talk to us about that. So one question, and then we'll dive into doing the spreadsheet for Latoya. Denise asks, relates to grant submissions. We have a project that would need 2.5 million. So Denise, do you have some more specific as to what about that 2.5 million?
Sure. We've been able to break down the budget. We run a theater company, and we are wanting to bring to Houston this huge week-long art festival. So everyone's excited about it, but I've been writing grants for the last 10 years for the organization, and I understand the importance of being able to put a project budget together. So all of the money that we said that we needed has a place. I just think maybe, and I don't know if this is related to what you're answering now, my biggest concern is maybe some insecurity that I was feeling, because up to that point, we have been operating for a very small budget. I mean, like less than 100,000 is what we needed to do our festival every year. This new festival in 2025 will command a huge amount of money. And so I guess maybe my question was perhaps you just give us in the narrative in your grant proposal, this is why we need so much more than we've been operating at, and then lose the insecurity of but yeah, I think I figured out how to split that money up and what it will be used for. I just need to get over.
No, I think you're going in the right spot. And what's hilarious, Amber, you're gonna laugh. Denise, what you're making me think of is called reverse engineering, which is like, I think one of Amber's all-time favorite terms in the world ever. And so if I was looking at this 2.5 million, because that's what you need, I would go backwards. So reverse engineer it to break down that 2.5 and your program expenses, so that you would create a budget that in the end ends up being 2.5. But Amber, I know you were going to comment on that too.
Well, yeah. And another way that I would do this too. So obviously you've done the numbers to get to that total, right? So the first questions that are coming up in my head is, are all of those expenses, or is any of that going to any type of asset, i.e., because you said theater, so I didn't know if maybe some of that money would be going to a home for this project. But then I would separate it out in segments. Okay. So for instance, under this umbrella, you obviously have different programs. So kind of make it like a la carte, because you can present for the 2.5, right? So you say, so like this program, we need this amount, and this is how we'd spend it. So forth, so forth, so forth. Separate it out 5 or 6. Number one, it shows detailed transparency on what the program is, who you're serving, what the impact is, which you're going to have to do that anyways if it was granted to you for your end of year impact report. So you're just doing the pre-work. Okay.
Correct.
But number two, somebody could then pick and choose. Oh, you know what? We want to do this and this. And so obviously you'd say, you know, within this, under this umbrella, this program is contingent upon this and it feeds into this, right? So you would layer what could be completely separate or removed, or, you know, what it, how they are interdependent upon one each other. But you could have several donors who says, you know what, I want to do that program or those 3 programs. I'll take this one and I'll take this one. Bam. You got what you want.
Yeah, that's what we do. You know, it has 4 different art forms, and a donor or a grant funder can take the music division, or someone can take the film division and put money into that. So I figured it's kind of, you know, in my narrative, I've tried to explain to them previously the organization has run or operated with a much smaller budget. But this project is a lot more than we've had before. And so I think that the answer to my question is to put that into the narrative. But there's a breakdown of the 2.5, and then there's a mini breakdown of the segments, so that anyone can see, you know, if we're just doing music division, what are the costs that you have for that? So
Yeah.
I just got to get here and do it. It's a lot of money.
It is. I mean, and what a cool opportunity that would be too. Okay, let's dive into the actual spreadsheet so you guys can see when you're provided this template, you'll be able to fill it in just like we are today. So we're doing this as an example for you guys. Amber, do you want to, well, Latoya, so we'll go down the list, kind of ask you the questions, and then Amber and I, probably mostly Amber, because she's the analysis queen, will kind of tell us what the numbers actually mean. And if you don't have the exact numbers, don't worry about it, because we are doing this in front of everybody, but maybe some general numbers. Yeah, okay, I figured. Yeah, I saw you over there. Like, it looked like you were pulling some numbers out. Okay, so and let's just look at 2023. So now remember, guys, it's only been half the year. So the numbers are going to be a little bit off for that 20% increase for next year. So don't be too as concerned about the 20% for 24 and 2025. Okay, Latoya, I am ready. You can just read off some numbers what you got for donations, and that includes cash, check, online. Oops, let me unmute you. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm trying. There you go. Okay.
Donations is 1,600. Uh-oh, my screen went away. Let me see. Government contracts is 101.73. 073. There we go. There it is. No, 101.730.
What?
You need another zero. One more zero, baby.
100. Oh, 100.
101.730.
There we go. Like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. By the way, just congratulations. Okay, keep going.
The fundraising event, honest, that's probably zero because I'm always going overboard.
That's okay.
In kind, I have my in kind slip. I have 623.
Okay.
Was gift cards.
Okay.
Membership dues is $780. They suck.
Okay. Jen, just so for everyone else understands what membership dues are, because most nonprofits don't actually have membership dues. Some nonprofits do operate with members. So sometimes those members, and depending, Latoya, on your bylaws or not, they have voting rights, kind of like how your board runs your nonprofit. So if you're a nonprofit with members, those members get to help make some of those decisions, and they usually pay like a monthly fee. So in Latoya's case, it's actually kind of a great way to get substantial amount of revenue for your organization to spend, but it does take a whole other level of I call it donor cultivation for members, because then now you got to search for members, get them in, bring them on, make sure they pay, all that kind of stuff. So, but another great way to bring in revenue. Okay. Any programs?
And they like the fact that it's a position, you know, they feel like they really
Right.
doing something. And I didn't know that at first. I lost 2 presidents because I didn't highlight them enough. And so I had to learn that you have to really massage that a lot.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
funny you say that. And that, just real quick, let's put this on like a future topic. Because on your website, look, people love to be highlighted. And
Mhm.
so you can really
Yes.
drive those membership dues and have a gold supporter, a bronze supporter, a gold supporter, and a platinum supporter, and woo, 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 all that they get, and this, that, the
Mhm.
other. And they love it, but it has to be something that they can brag about, has to be something that they can showcase in their, you know, whatever, in their offices, etc. But they're all about it. But to your point, that is key. But it's just one more page on the website. And people are competitive, so they like to maintain their rank.
My program service, I have a domestic violence program, and that program, the ones that they pay is like $16,023 for the year. That's 16. The sponsorship, haven't had it. No, we got $1,000. We got $1,000 sponsorship. We did.
Any sales and merchandise?
I sell connection beads, but I end up taking them and giving them to people anyway. So I'm not good at that. I just want to hug them and give them beads.
I love it. Okay. So, all right, that's where revenue coming in. So let's scroll down here and start putting in some expenses, and go ahead and just call it off, and then I'll present the
My God, you need a whooping for this sheet right here. Program service expenses, but I spent $200 a month for program service expenses. So that's times 12, that's $2,400.
Okay.
Uh-oh, please stop, whoever that is. Okay, let me stop that.
You give
Sorry.
any grants to other organizations or any funds to individuals?
You know what? I do not, but I buy the youth girls that show up. I take them on events and buy them clothes if they need stuff like that.
How much does that cost you?
Probably like $3,000 a year.
Okay,
I don't have that one in front of me.
I would put that in the program service expenses. So I
Okay.
make that 5,100.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any fundraising expenses?
Oh, no, I'm gonna go down. Advertising promotion, I'm not good at that. No, I suck. Compensation officer, no. Other salaries, one is, we do have one salary person. He was making $1,800 a year. That's a service management, legal accounting, no. Fees for services other than my tax guy, I pay him $1,800 a month. I mean, a year, excuse me, but that's down at the bottom, never mind.
No, down at the bottom is the actual, any taxes like sales tax or any type of.
Oh, okay. Okay, well then he goes there.
Yeah, he goes there, yeah.
Background checks, no, not right now. Now,
Okay.
where it should be highly red for me is the bank fees, because thank God for overdraft protection, because my account was in the red for so many times. So I spent at least, he told me I spent $5,000 a year on overdraft fees.
Oh, no.
I know. Insurance is $5,500 a year. IT software, I spent $5,000 between the IT guy and all of the new hardware.
Why is your insurance so high? Is that for your certificates?
That's
for special events or what?
No, that is so high because I had to get workers' compensation. I had to get sexual harassment, all of this stuff you have to have as a nonprofit that I didn't know when you hire people. So I hired 2 people. I got a grant and I hired 2 people, and then my insurance went up.
Yeah.
Major. So
okay, but they're no longer, but you don't have any more W-2 employees. So are you still paying workers' comp on 1099 contractors or?
No, I do. I have 2 W-2s now.
Oh, okay, well then, and that's under your salary and wages for the 1,800?
No, that was when he was something else. Now they get a 30. Okay, so I missed that. So if you go back up to the 1,800, now it is $2,400 a month. And that time, the end of the year
Equals
was
24. I
24,
gotcha.
20, 48,000.
Okay, okay, that makes sense then.
Oh, because
Okay.
it's for 2 of them, right?
Yes, it's 2. Mhm. Okay, there we go.
And so you guys see, still as a nonprofit, you're still required to operate, you know, have workers' comp, have insurance, and all of those are large expenses that are realized.
Really, really. Look at all these 5s. My numbers must be 5s. Good. License and fees, I pay with the my license and all of those things. That one is not much, probably like 160 some bucks, not much at all.
Okay.
Office expenses, when you look at all of the Amazon, my last year, if I split it in half, last year I spent like $38,000 for the year on office,
So
everything.
you're talking about paper, printer,
Yes.
everything, anything.
Gloves, because we do drug testing, gloves and hats and oh my God, yeah. So postage, I don't really spend a lot on because I do everything electronically. My rent is $60,000 a year. I spent taxes and licenses. Which one exactly are you speaking of?
So do you have to have any permits, city licenses,
Yes,
health department stuff?
yes. That one is $770 something, 770 something. Goodness, look at these numbers, Lord. I don't know why.
Well, now we see why you got overdraft fees, because you're operating at a negative $57,000.
I am,
And we haven't even paid for your phone yet.
And my husband retirement is like really, really good. And well, yeah, and the work we do. So the phone and internet, yeah, I don't even want to go any further. Now I'm looking like this is crazy. Okay, so my telephone a year cost me probably is $300 a month, 3 times 12. So we talking about what, $3,600? Whew. Meals, I'm old school. I bring my stuff, and lodging and fuel. I spend $400 a week. Time 52, and my husband drives in as well. So let me go back up, because one of my, go up to the top, what I notice is I provide drug testing, and it's not added in my income because that brings me $50,000 a year. Okay, now that's right, exactly where we are. That's perfect. I can't believe I did that off the top of my head, but we still.
That's impressive.
But I just want to know too, that this skill set, to be able to know your numbers like this, which most of us don't in reality, but to be able, so Latoya, I commend you for this. Just the fact that you were able to kind of like say some of these numbers off the top of your head, even though you're looking at some papers there, is a very good quality in a nonprofit executive director, leader, founder, or whoever's in position to be, you know, running operations, because sometimes on the fly, you need to be doing this, or if you're out and about and you're talking to someone there and they're like, oh, you buy clothes for girls? How much are you spending per year for those girls? And you're able to say, oh, I spent 3,000. That person might say, I'll donate 3,000. I'll take care of that. Okay.
But I'm
Amber.
glad you all are doing this, because it took me a long time to figure this out. It's like there's no manual or nobody that can really have, people don't talk about money. And to be able to really have this conversation in a candid way is beneficial for the new people, that because it don't take 12 years. I just got my first grant this year. Year 12.
So with that said, so now I want to know what your program is, because we're not putting the right amount of money in the program, because I believe, like you said, you're doing the drug testing. So therefore you're deploying, even though we put it in the wages, the 57,000 in the wages, I'm guessing that you're deploying that human capital providing a service to a program, to a direct program. So is that a yes or a no? Because I don't want to make an assumption.
I'm unsure. So can I explain just a little bit real briefly? So
Please.
I'm a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. I'm in recovery. I was a teen mom. So I took all of that information and created this program. Okay. I do drug testing for the families that are getting their kids trying to regain custody of their children. That's what really pays for the bills. Everything else is really heartfelt. I've been doing all of this from my heart because I feel like I must. So now that I'm learning what I'm learning, is making more sense. Like, oh my God, I've been doing this I've been getting it done slow, but not really beneficial, if you will. So the drug testing just really pays the bills. All I do is I observe, I offer them services, and then they go. But my domestic violence, sexual assault, anger management, parenting, She Navigates program is where I do all the work. I'm the counselor. I'm a certified drug counselor. I do all those things.
Okay. So you're doing the counselor and the drug testing. So that's the services in the program. So Sharon, let me ask you this, going back, because look, so if she had to answer to her grantor about how the money was spent, the way it's in the spreadsheet right now is not where it needs to be. So in other words, because she's donating her time, and none of these numbers are fluffed, none of these numbers are quote unquote advantage taking. And so that's the importance of this. Everybody can clearly see this is ordinary and necessary. Okay. So with her providing her counseling and the drug test, and I don't know if there's costs of that or if those are being donated or what have you, do those have to go into the in-kind bracket and then appropriated to funds spent on program?
No, so it would go into the description of her services when she's explaining this. For example, she has to file a 990 because her gross receipts are over 50,000. So in her 990, when she's explaining her program, I forget which page it's on, but there's a part in there where she gets to explain
Page 2.
what her expenses look like. So she would be able to explain, why her funds spent on overhead is around 80%. Which is really, really high. So just an average Joe looking at this, we would be like, oh my God, what are you doing? But in reality, that's because her type of nonprofit's mission, a lot of it is overhead driven. And by overhead, I mean, it's people oriented. So it's the cost of people to serve people. And in the 990, you get that opportunity to explain that and tell that story. And by telling that story, you would then say, I am serving 100 women every month or whatever impact data you have. And that would be an alignment. And that's equivalent to spending, $203,000. We are right at 2:00, you guys, on Pacific time. So I know we've hit that hour, but I do want to open it up for any kind of questions. LaToya, you are the MVP of the year. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable with the whole group about your finances on your nonprofit organization. That was really awesome. It was cool to just kind of be able to see, where people are really at and to go through an actual example so you guys can see how this spreadsheet works. And we'll send you a copy of this spreadsheet. We'll send you a copy of this recording, but I'd like to open it up for comments, questions. Amber, I know you've maybe got a couple of things you want to share.
Yeah, Matthew had a question about what is the difference between salaries, officers, and directors, and that's super important. And I'm so glad you picked up on that. And there's a reason why we segmented it out. So salaries, officers, and directors. And so when you form your nonprofit, and Sharon, for instance, can speak to this, but you have to identify all of these roles and responsibilities, right? And so they're there to serve the mission. So again, they want to know what the salaries of the directors and officers are, the people that are literally on the Secretary of State filing, right, Sharon?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
But remember, though, this doesn't mean this isn't to say that your directors and officers are getting an actual salary. This is just if there was any kind of compensation, but it is not industry standard and is not an okay thing to do to pay your board members. So really it's a focus on the salary of what it could be is maybe your president of your nonprofit organization is also your executive director. The executive director can get a salary for work for the organization. So be careful on this one. If this is an area that you think you're dabbling into, please reach out to us so that we can help you make sure you're communicating that appropriately and within nonprofit guidelines.
Yeah, and so the reason it's segmented out on the spreadsheet is because the IRS and everybody else for that matter wants to see the difference. Because you know, salaries is just one big bucket, but they want to know how much of it is going to the people who are your case managers, your office managers, your, you know, everybody that works within the organization that doesn't have a direct stake. So you either work for the organization or you have a direct stake in the organization. And so they want it separated.
Good question, Matthew. A lot of people ask about that one, and it's kind of like one of those tricky ones, controversial. Any other questions, folks? This was really fun. I hope this helped alleviate some stress around budgets and finances, and will help you guys establish your budgets for your nonprofits. Having a good, solid budget will help you get grants, fundings, because it'll allow you to tell the story financially so that you can communicate the need that you have for your organization. Yeah, if anybody, I'm getting a couple of questions in the chat. If anybody does want to book a discovery call with us, you can go to our Instagram profiles and book straight from there. We're more than happy to do a discovery call and see what kind of needs that you guys have and if that's a service that you guys want to work with. But we are available to chat offline with everybody that has specific needs for their organization. Toya, thank you so much again for sharing your financials with us. Amber, I cannot thank you enough. Badass finance wizard over there. Amber is your strategy specialist. I'm Dr. Sharon, the nonprofit plug. Thank you for joining us at today's Lunch and Learn. We'll see you guys all next week.
Thank you, guys.